The execution of the responsive design really consists of three main technical ingredients: fluid grid, flexible images, and media queries. And these three ingredients were really outlined for the first time by a gentleman named Ethan Marcotte from A List Apart. It's a well-known blog site. I think the best way to take a look at this is to actually view it on an actual website. So we have a demo site. So the old traditional fixed width world, say such as in the golden age of fixed width, say 10 years ago, it was great. I mean, designers could get exactly what they wanted. So they could be designing on a 960 pixel wide canvas, and the programmers would reproduce that exactly, and they knew exactly what they were getting, and it was wonderful. But you could do that because you would know that primarily based on the monitors that were out in those days, it was going to be a certain resolution. But as you can see here, as you grow and shrink that resolution, you're not going to see all of it, and it's not going to work out so well. Back then we had terms such as keep things above the fold. That's not really relevant these days anymore because there's no consistent fold anymore. People are on all kinds of devices. So now we have responsive sites that you can see grow and change. They are, as the resolution changes, the site changes to adapt to that. The other thing is that in the age of static fixed width sites, we had things called mobile sites that you would redirect to an entirely different site that was geared towards a mobile browser. These days, people get frustrated with that. They don't want to see a light version of their site or a watered down version of your site. They want to see the content they came for. Responsive websites are a way of not discriminating based on just because you're viewing the site on a mobile phone, you should have access to the same content that a person on a laptop or a desktop would. There's always a question about these new capabilities that we use, these fluid grids, flexible images, and media queries. What about the browsers that may not support these new technologies? Well, the great thing is about CSS, which is the way we control the layout. Old browsers ignore what they don't know. So we really don't have to worry about it as long as we default our layout to the desktop version. So IE8 will see the desktop version, and the newer browsers that are on your mobile devices will listen to the new instructions. So the three main ingredients, fluid grids, let's take a look at them in a little more detail. I promise I won't do too much math here, but there is some numbers involved because we are talking about fixed width, which is defined in an actual pixel amount. In traditional fixed width designs, we would say that your website is 960 pixels wide, period. You may have a content area inside there that's 900 pixels wide, period. Regardless of your device, it's going to be 900 pixels wide. The way we make things fluid is to change from pixels to percentages. We will take that layout and say instead of 900 and 960, we do some quick math and figure out that, oh, we really want this white area in the middle is really 93.75%. It's a percentage rather than an actual static number. And that allows things to be fluid. The second ingredient is flexible images. Same concept. Whether we're moving from defined pixels. In this case, I have, to go with the theme of the moss in back of the girl stretching, we have a picture of moss here that is exactly 500 pixels by 500 pixels. And we will see that if I change the width of this, I now only see a portion of that image because the image is still 500 pixels wide, even if the size of my device is smaller than that. And that ends up giving me a scroll bar in order to see, and this would be the standard pinch and zoom and pan around option. Instead, flexible images, if I move to another Moss picture, Kate Moss, I remove, get used to my corny humor, remove the width and height. All right, so I'm not specifying the width and height of this picture. What I'm allowing this picture to do is fill the size of the container up to 100%. All right, we never want the image to blow up larger than its original size because then it'll get blurry and pixelated. All right. So we want the picture to have a maximum width of 100%, but otherwise it can shrink. So if I take that same area of the website and I make it smaller, you see the image gets smaller. So this is what we mean by flexible images. And we express that in our CSS by simply calling it a max width of 100%. The third ingredient is media queries. As the name suggests, you're querying or questioning the device about its capabilities. And this allows us to do something that's related to responsive. It's part of responsive, but you may also hear the term adaptive. Basically, we can set breakpoints where we decide at a certain point there's something I want to change about this layout to make it look better on a certain device. So I may say, hey, after I get to, in this case, 768 pixels, as soon as my width gets above that, I want this text to be red. And I'm now above that, you can see. But if I go below that, that rule will no longer apply, and my text is no longer red. So we can use this tool in addition to the moving into percentages. We use the tool of changing the layout, and you can use this to change all kinds of things about layout, positioning, size, margins, font size. Anything could be changed based on these rules, and these are called media queries. That's the third ingredient for responsive design. So when should we consider this type of development? You're always going to consider it, and whether you do it, probably 99.99% of the time, you should have a really, really good reason not to do it. And usually, I mean, the only reason that we would not do it is maybe extremely limited budget or an extremely good reason that we want mobile users to not see the same content. And that's really rare. It's pretty much our default way of building websites now. We just assume it's going to be responsive unless we have a reason not to.